Finally!
Finally!
The WNBA and WNPA has finally came to an agreement. Now, it is a verbal agreement. I have my little words about that, but let's get into it. Few details about this agreement that you got to know. Salary cap starts at $7 million, which was $1.5 million in 2025. Average revenue sharing of about 20% across the CBA. Supermax salary of $1.4 million. Yikes! Average salary is going to be around $600K, while the minimum would be like $300K and up, when the minimum was $66,000 in 2025. Oh my God. And I just want everybody who's been telling them, y'all need to sign something, hurry up, y'all don't know what y'all talking about, shut the fuck up. Y'all whining too much, you better be glad for what you got. Now look at them, they whining, they got even more. I wouldn't mind an Asia Wilson getting that 1.4, or Caitlin Clark getting a 1.4, even a Paige, somebody who is super important to their franchise. I wouldn't mind it. Man, let me know, man. I'm a Mystics fan, so I am excited about this, dog.
Let's stop pretending this is normal, because it's not. The fact that a WNBA superstar like Aja Wilson can sign a historic supermax contract and still make less than an NBA rookie like Bronny James isn't just a gap. It's a statement about how sports are valued, how money flows, and how one league is still fighting for respect while the other operates like a financial powerhouse. And if that doesn't make you pause for a second, then you're missing what this really represents.
We're not asking to get paid what the men get paid. We're asking to get paid the same percentage of revenue. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. So that's a huge misconception.
That's a huge misconception. In the NBA, they have percentages of revenue shared for the players, right? So jersey sales, their TV contracts, but that's because their CBA negotiates. If the owners are making certain types of money, they get that as well. In the WNBA, that's not the case.
For sure.
Yeah, because every video is like, oh, this person gets paid this person gets paid that, right?
So I want to be really clear about that. Like, I don't think I should get paid the same as LeBron.
Right.
But the percentage of revenue, like, for example, they sell my jersey in Mandalay Bay, I don't get a dime.
You don't get any money from jersey sales?
That's great.
That's
so, like,
bullshit.
that's the stuff we're talking about. You know what I'm saying?
On paper, this shouldn't even be possible. You have Aja Wilson, an MVP-level player, a champion, a face of the league, signing a deal worth around $1.4 million. That number is supposed to symbolize growth, progress, and a new era for the WNBA. But then you look across at the NBA, where a rookie, someone who hasn't proven anything at the professional level, is making more simply by entering the league. That's where the conversation shifts. It's no longer about growth, it's about reality. And the reality is that these two leagues are operating in completely different financial worlds.
This league that didn't even exist 2 years ago has officially created a nightmare situation for the WNBA. The average unrivaled salary is over $220K, while the W sits at $102K. That means a player makes more in 2 months of unrivaled than 5 months with the W, and that doesn't even include the equity. Every unrivaled player is an owner, while WNBA players are strictly employees. Back in the summer of 23, Breonna Stewart and Nafisa Collier launched Unrivaled, a 3-on-3 women's league where all the players get equity. Their $27 million in first-year revenue attracted big-time investors at a new $340 million valuation. The cash allowed the league to expand 8 teams and play games outside Miami. The results were shocking. In Philly, they broke the all-time attendance record for a pro-women's regular season game. Then for the semifinals, they moved to Brooklyn and sold out Barclays. All in, after year 2, revenue jumped 67% to $45 million. The timing couldn't have been worse for the WNBA. The WNBA CBA deadline is March 10th, and things aren't looking so bright. 84% of players rejected the league's most recent offer, and a big reason why is they understand their leverage. They've proved that higher pay and real ownership is a winning formula. All of the leagues you see on screen burn through hundreds of millions of dollars before either folding or restructuring. Unrivaled turned a profit in 2 years. They've handed the W the blueprint, but the league is still too stubborn to either meet their very reasonable demands or copy the ownership playbook. I'm from Michael Smith, and that's my take.
The NBA is a global machine. Billion-dollar television deals, international fan bases, packed arenas, massive sponsorships, and a salary cap that sits around $166 million per team. That kind of financial structure allows even role players to earn millions, and rookies to step into contracts most people will never see in a lifetime. It's not just a league, it's an economic empire that has been built and expanded for decades. That level of infrastructure creates a system where money flows at a completely different scale. Now compare that to the WNBA. Yes, there has been real progress. The new collective bargaining agreement has raised minimum salaries to around $300,000. increased the salary cap to roughly $7 million, and introduced revenue sharing. Those are major steps forward and should absolutely be recognized. But progress doesn't mean equality. Even with these improvements, the WNBA is still operating on a fraction of the NBA's financial scale, and that difference shows up directly in player salaries. That's where the frustration begins to grow, because from a basketball standpoint, the talent is undeniable. Players like Aja Wilson, Caitlin Clark, and Breanna Stewart are elite. Period. Not for women's basketball, not in a separate category, just elite athletes at the highest level of the game. But the money doesn't reflect that. And when you see a superstar earning less than a rookie, it forces a bigger question. Why does that gap exist at this level? The easy answer is revenue. The NBA generates more money, so its players get paid more. That's the business side, and it's true. But that explanation only scratches the surface. It doesn't address how that gap was created in the first place. The NBA has had decades of investment, marketing, global expansion, and media coverage. The WNBA, on the other hand, has been building its audience and infrastructure under very different conditions, often without the same level of support or visibility. And that's the part people don't like to talk about. It's easier to compare salaries than it is to compare systems, because once you start looking at the systems, you realize this isn't just about who's better or who deserves more. It's about how the entire sports economy has been structured over time. Now bring it back to the players, because this is where it hits the hardest. Imagine being Aja Wilson. You've dominated your sport, won at the highest level, become a face of your league, and helped grow the game. Then you sign the biggest contract in league history, something that should be celebrated. And the conversation immediately turns into a comparison that highlights how far behind you still are. That's not just a financial gap, that's a perception gap. And it's not just about one player. For years, WNBA athletes have had to play overseas in the offseason to supplement their income. They've had to build multiple revenue streams just to approach what even an average NBA player earns. That reality shows how different the financial ecosystems really are, and why comparisons like this keep resurfacing. At the same time, the WNBA is clearly moving in the right direction. Viewership is rising, star power is increasing, and players are gaining more visibility than ever before. The new CBA, especially with revenue sharing, signals that the league is serious about long-term growth. These are not small changes. They are foundational shifts that could reshape the league over time. But here's the key issue. Growth does not automatically close the gap. The WNBA can grow significantly and still remain far behind the NBA financially. That's because the scale of the NBA is so massive that even rapid growth in the WNBA doesn't immediately translate into equal footing. And until the revenue gap narrows in a meaningful way, the salary gap will remain. That brings the conversation to an uncomfortable but necessary place. Because while people argue about fairness, the market is making decisions every day. Fans decide what they watch, networks decide what they broadcast, sponsors decide where they invest. All of those choices directly impact how much money flows into each league. So when people say WNBA players should be paid more, the real question becomes whether the support behind the league is strong enough to sustain that increase. Saying it is easy, funding it is different. That tension sits at the center of this entire discussion. On one side, you have undeniable progress and a league that is growing and evolving. On the other side, you have a massive financial gap that isn't closing overnight. And in the middle, you have players like Aja Wilson, who represent both realities at the same time: success and limitation, progress and disparity. So when you see the comparison between a WNBA superstar and an NBA rookie, don't just see it as a shocking headline. See it as a reflection of where sports are right now. One league operating at the peak of global financial power, more, and another still building toward its full potential. The real question moving forward is whether that gap will eventually shrink as the WNBA continues to grow, or whether it will always exist because the two leagues operate on fundamentally different scales. Because depending on that answer, this isn't just a temporary imbalance. It could be a long-term reality. And if that's the case, then this conversation isn't just about contracts or salaries anymore. It's about how the game itself is valued and who gets to define that value.